Well, hello everyone. Thanks again for joining us for live streaming Deconstructed. We are so pumped to spend some time with you guys today, talking about the ins and outs of live streaming. I know it can be sometimes an intimidating topic, but we wanted to devote an entire webinar to this topic just to dive deep and answer any questions that you guys might have. So you might be thinking, this isn't Zach Merritt, the Share Faith webinar guru leading. So we are actually doing this as from the Boxcast office. So Boxcast has been partnering with Share Faith for the last 3 years now as the official live streaming partner of Share Faith. We whipped up a custom package just for Share Faith churches. So what we're about to talk about today has discounted pricing, custom features, actual overall feature set meant just for you guys. So we want to be very specific for you guys, and again, remember, this is a conversation. So we're going to pause multiple times throughout the webinar and ask you guys to submit either questions through the chat or even through the email address webinars@boxcast.com. There is also a link beneath the player that is going to give you guys the opportunity to sign up for a one-on-one consultation, where we'll be able to meet offline after this one-on-one and talk about your specific context. So there's really a plethora of different options. We want to keep this conversation going because everyone's context is different and everyone's situation is different. So before we jump into the actual webinar, who are these two guys, these two handsome fellows?
That's right.
Talking about streaming today? We're going to give you our names, a little bit of background about who we are, as well as a couple very important things. Our favorite serial, our favorite Avenger, and our ministry background. So first off, we have Kyle Nickel here, served a number of years in Young Life. He's got a passion for helping younger folks in high school. Young Life is really a global, awesome ministry. If you guys aren't familiar with it, check it out. But that's been part of Kyle's life. He chose incorrectly, but this was his preference for cereal.
Love Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So
there's got to be a couple of you guys out there. If you like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, let us know so that Kyle doesn't feel insecure about his choice. And then finally, the favorite Avenger.
Gotta have the Hulk. There it is.
That's the explanation?
That's it. I don't know. He's just the best.
All right, so Kyle has been with Boxcast for the last 4 years. He's a dear childhood friend of mine. My name is Brett. I've been with Boxcast just a little bit longer than him, but we are just passionate about helping churches use video to reach people. I would have to say that my background is kind of all over the place, but I spent a couple years in pastoral ministry as an associate pastor of discipleship, so that's kind of my ministry background. I'm going to choose a good, hearty, raisiny, crunchy granola for my favorite cereal.
Gross.
And I'm going with the web slinger Spider-Man as my favorite Avenger. So beyond kind of these silly things, we are live streaming experts. That's how we spend the best hours of our day, talking with pastors and church staff all the time about live streaming. It's something that we really care deeply about, and that's why we are so excited to spend some time with you today. So another quick thing, if you can pull up this graphic, Josh, is that it is actually Kyle's birthday. He turned 27 today. He did not know that.
Thank you. Yeah, I had no idea you were going to do that. That's so nice.
But,
thank you, everybody.
What have you learned after 27 years?
I've learned how to stream. So we're going to talk about that.
Well, that's very relevant for today's webinar.
There we go. But
well, we are going to be just deconstructing live streaming and talking about a lot of different pieces and parts, from highly technical to a little bit more basic. But really, everything in this webinar is going to come down to one big question: why should a church pay to live stream their services when there are free options out there? I think just over the past couple of years, that's really what people ask quite often. I know you probably get that question.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest, I think, things that churches are looking at is, we know there's free options to do this, but we want to do this with high quality.
Exactly.
Where are we going to come together on that?
Exactly.
And so
I mean, we will be talking tech. We're going to go deep into some tech issues today, but really it comes back to a practical question. There's free things out there. Why would I even want to invest in something like Share Faith streaming that's a little bit more professional? We often think about live streaming as kind of being this one-size-fits-all thing. 3 little words, live video streaming, but there's a lot of really highly technical things, from acquisition to viewer scaling, transcoding, presentation, promotion. And so there are a lot of different technological variables out there. We could have a 4-hour webinar if we truly deconstructed live streaming. So really what we decided to do is come down to these 2 strategies. We're talking specifically about Facebook Live, as kind of the primary free option out there. And secondarily, we're going to be talking about ShareFaith streaming with the custom feature set. So there are more things to compare, but really we just want to say, okay, we have this free option, we have this paid option. We're going to kind of deconstruct both. And so really the first thing we're going to talk about in our webinar today, just a basic outline, is low tech. The end viewer experience.
Right.
So what does someone see when they tune into your live stream? Beyond that, we'll talk about things kind of at a medium level, the user capabilities that someone running a stream might have to look into, and then finally, a couple highly technical things. Kyle's going to probably talk more about that than I do. He's really good with that. We'll talk about pricing and the discount that we offer to ShareFaith churches, and then as well have a time for Q&A. So just one more quick reminder, make sure as we're talking, shoot us a chat, shoot us an email.
Yeah.
We want your questions. We want this to be about you guys, not just about us yapping up here.
We'd love to hear from you guys and answer any questions that you have. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's connecting with you guys and letting you know how to do this the best way possible. So.
Absolutely. So keep it a dual back and forth. We would love to do that with you. Jumping right into it, we will dive into our first actual focus, and that's really the most practical side of live streaming. What does a viewer see? What do people experience when they watch your live video stream? So just jumping right into it, let's talk first about venue, where people can watch.
Yeah, and so a lot of people want to stream to Facebook. We find that to be an incredibly relevant place for us to stream to, and we know that that's 100% true. 7 out of every 10 people in the United States is on Facebook. We know that that's definitely a good place to send people to watch, but that's not the only place that we should be reaching people, right? As we think about, maybe there are people that are so young that they don't have Facebook accounts, and there are people that are so old that they don't have Facebook accounts as well, right? There's people that you're still limited just by doing something free just to Facebook, right? I mean, with ShareFaith streaming, you guys get to stream to your website, to Facebook, to YouTube. You kind of get out on a lot of different platforms because it's so important that we reach people where they are.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. I mean, I'm a 30-year-old millennial, but I don't have a Facebook account.
Right.
So, like, if I was going to a church that only streamed through Facebook, I wouldn't really be able to watch because I don't have an account. So it is somewhat limiting to say, it's free, but oftentimes with free options, you're streaming to that one location, and you're missing out on opportunities like Apple TV, Roku, Periscope even.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
we're adding more and more options for our churches with ShareFaith streaming.
And then not only that, but also ShareFaith, as most of you probably know, provide an excellent mobile app.
Right.
That Boxcast, through ShareFaith streaming can actually embed directly in that mobile app too. So your church has a mobile app. How do you make it better? You know what I mean? You want to incorporate so many different ways that people can actually stay tuned with your ministry, and Facebook Live is just one caveat of so many different options that you guys can actually stream your services to. It doesn't make sense just to stop there.
Absolutely. So jumping into kind of this more abstract concept, we're going to call it the distraction factor. So let's talk about just competing content, branding, and then even advertisements.
Yeah, and so you'll notice as people stream through Facebook, as people scroll through Facebook, Facebook counts one view as somebody that's watched a stream for 3 seconds. So as you're scrolling through, I mean, it's like, are those views even real sometimes, right? Because, obviously we get a lot of high viewership on that, people are scrolling through, but there's competing things all around you, right? And people scroll through Facebook, they see your church service, right below that's a video of some cats, who knows? It's
Which you posted.
Right, yeah, but there's some advertisements, and it's nice to kind of be relevant and be in a place where people are kind of scrolling through to kind of be discovered, but also that can be very distracting, right? So it's not that you want to make sure you're bringing people to a place that's really safe for them to watch your live stream.
Yeah,
you don't want them to be somewhere like on Facebook. There's probably advertisements surrounding that live stream that may not even be honoring your ministry correctly, right? You want to be showing your website where people it's safe for those eyes to be watching your stream and watching your service.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it really is Facebook's business model to run advertisement and make money. And so they when they see there's a lot of viewership, they're going to incorporate advertisements that will be distracting, but also it is primarily a social network where
Right.
people have hundreds of friends, or some people have
Right.
thousands of friends.
Yeah.
And so every minute there's just new content, scrolling and refreshing,
Right.
and it's almost built to distract people, to keep them like looking for a new thing.
Continually consumed, right?
Yeah, so really what we've tried to do with our solution is come up with ways to integrate within multiple platforms,
Right.
but make people be able to watch much longer,
Right.
and have maybe like an entire duration. I mean, like let's say you're preaching and there's a 30-minute sermon or a 40-minute sermon, and there's a lot of kind of prolegomena that happens at the beginning, just setting up the stage, and it's not until the 27th minute or the 37th minute that you have your thesis,
Right.
where you're really talking about like this is the main point of the stream. So we want to kind of provide a place where there's not a lot of distraction, there's not any sort of competing branding or content. We don't even put like a Boxcast or a ShareFaith watermark over the player on your website, just so that people can be honed in and are, of course, certainly not
Right.
distracted by
Right,
ads
right, yeah,
or things like
exactly.
that. So people can, really find your content more meaningful when there's not things to kind of get in the way of them continuing to watch. Actually, something that's been more and more relevant. We've been getting a lot of questions. We actually posted an article just in recent days about this. But there have been a lot of churches experiencing like sudden and unpredictable event terminations on Facebook. So it's something that has been happening more and more due to licensing. I don't know, Kyle, if you wanted to dive in that really quickly.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is that Facebook or YouTube don't always know if the songs you're performing on any given Sunday are copyrighted or not. And so a big company like Facebook or YouTube are more likely to shut you down for playing something like that because they just don't know. So when you're, being versatile and you're streaming to your website and all these other places, you give people a lot of different options and places to watch. A lot of times some of that, the pre-loop music that you're playing kind of in the background, like that'll get shut down. Using something like ShareFace streaming and Boxcast, the fact that we have support teams that you can send to multiple different Facebook Live pages at once, really kind of helps with that to some extent.
For sure.
But there are some big issues with, you guys count on streaming to your Facebook and then Facebook shuts you down and then you have nobody to call.
Right.
You have nobody to actually reach out to help you get back up and running.
Yeah.
And those are some big issues.
Yeah, and I think the frustrating thing is that a lot of churches take copyright seriously, and you'll be actually spending money every month or even annually,
Right.
To make sure that you're covered to stream, legally. But Facebook pretty much has the assumption that if there's any sort of copyrighted content, even if you've paid to stream it, they'll kick you off. So your event will just abruptly terminate, and there can be a 2-day hold on your account, or even up to a month or even longer. So we certainly do not kick off our broadcasters in the middle of their worship services, and that's something that we take very seriously. And then something also I think that, just to touch on briefly, is just there's kind of a quality limitation. You found out a pretty interesting statistic about this. But actually, if you wanted to stream in 1080p, there is a pretty outrageous requirement on Facebook Live.
So Facebook will limit you to 720p unless you have, on average, over 10,000 viewers on your stream, and then they'll let you go to 1080.
Right.
Right. And so majority of the time they're going to be limiting you in the quality. And so I think that's part of it, is obviously what Facebook will allow you to do. The other part of it is anybody who's watching on this live stream probably first started out by just streaming to Facebook using their mobile device, right? And although it's great to use a phone, although it's great to use to kind of get started, you probably figured out pretty quickly that that's not the best way to do it. It's jerky, the camera quality isn't great, you're not getting a great sound quality in your live stream. So from two different aspects, obviously Facebook being one that limits you sometimes to quality, and two, knowing that, if you're not using a professional video camera, that's going to limit you severely as well.
Right. That's a great point there. I think that when I talk to pastors, normally what they say is we want to do this affordably,
right?
We want to do this simply, but also we want to make sure that this is excellent quality.
Right.
We don't want to put anything out there, especially week after week, that's subpar and is going to kind of give people a negative first impression. And so we know that excellence in quality is a significant thing, and that's why we have options for you guys to upgrade beyond 720, and we're even building a 4K piece of hardware that we're going to be releasing soon here. So we're always on the cutting edge of technology. We want to make sure that you guys are as well. So just, to jump right back into kind of summarizing your viewers' experience on the platform as a whole, when you're looking at a free option like Facebook Live, here's just 3 little phrases. I think your reach is limited. You aren't necessarily able to touch people in multiple platforms. You're kind of focused just on people who are active on Facebook and are not distracted enough to actually find your stream. The engagement is pretty brief. Where again, you said 3 seconds. That's that's what a view is counted as. And then you're looking at sub-professional equipment to stream through a shaky-handed iPhone, and if you get kicked off, then you're kind of done. So, we've tried to kind of take a different approach where there's more of a wide reach with our simulcasting options. People are going to have service-long viewership and hopefully tune in and stay connected to your meaningful content. And then there is reliability. We actually use the highest quality AWS servers globally. So actually every viewer gets a local server through ShareFaith streaming. And even if we have people in Africa using ShareFaith streaming, in Australia, in Asia, and they're actually all utilizing servers that are local to them. So we want to really have a professional, global, opportunity for your ministry to reach as many people as possible.
Right.
We are going to jump into a short time of questions. Let's just kind of jump on a few here. I know a couple have been sent in.
So the first one here, could you tell us about a success story from a church that switched from a free streaming option to Boxcast ShareFaith streaming platform?
Yeah, I think we have this happen every week multiple times. So people, actually Facebook Live has been one of the greatest reasons why we've grown at the rate we've grown as a company, because it has a low barrier of entry and people can sign up for free and broadcast for free. But the quality and some of these things that we've talked about already have made it where I think they see the merit of reaching people, but realize that we want to invest, a lower, lower costed option. So we literally every single week have churches signing up with ShareFaith streaming.
Well, it's funny because churches will come to us, or come to ShareFaith, and they'll say, I know that this is important because I tried to do it for free to Facebook. Everybody watched, but nobody thought it looked good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
you're winning half the battle there.
Right. Yeah.
And just another reason why I think this success story is really easy is because we're not asking you to sign up for something and then become a professional live streaming expert overnight. What we do is we actually send you this little piece of hardware. We sell it for $499. We call it our Boxcaster. We build our own hardware here in Cleveland, Ohio, but it has audio and video inputs where you guys can take any camera and plug it in. You can plug in your soundboard. It has Wi-Fi in the box as well as an Ethernet input. So this is what when you guys sign up for ShareFaith streaming, we send you this box that doesn't even have a button on it. And then when Sunday morning rolls around, it turns on by itself and it's going to stream automatically to all of your different platforms that you choose live, and then post the archives automatically. So you don't even need a volunteer to run it. So we've had a lot of success stories with people who do start off with something for the first time with Facebook Live, and then they call us and they say, we're not experts, we would like to do something like this, but how much work does it really take? Right. And it's, less than 5 minutes a week for a lot of our churches. So
it's actually funny because that was the next question. What device, what products does Boxcast have to stream through? So it is the Boxcaster. It's an encoder. Essentially, it's taking that video signal. You're not going to have to run it through a converter to get it through a computer. You're not going to have to just use your iPhone. It replaces the need for a computer. Camera, Boxcaster, internet, easy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's meant to be super, super easy. I saw the next question is, if we have issues, can we call Boxcast? Actually, when we ship out the hardware to you, we'll set up a meeting with you so that right when you get it in hand, you'll be able to hop on a phone call with one of our streaming experts and actually do some training. So that we'll do some testing, make sure if there are any kinks or hiccups, we're going to work those out for you. And then we have customer support 12 hours a day, and then actually 14 hours on Sunday, so that you guys can call in and speak to an expert anytime on the phone. So we're certainly there for you guys, and that's something that we really take pride in. So
Perfect.
Great questions. We're going to kind of move along. And dive into issues of user capabilities. And what I mean by user capabilities is the capabilities that you have as the user, the person running the stream. So this is not necessarily the end viewer, their experience, but more what you experience while you manage and operate your stream. So let's just jump right into your experience. We talked about this just briefly just a minute ago, but let's just really quick share a little bit more detail about
Yeah.
about our support and why we've chosen to include this in the plan.
And I think this is so important because everybody knows what it's like to have a million things going on Sunday morning and never have enough volunteers to make it happen as smoothly
Right.
as you'd like. And so when you have, maybe some volunteers that aren't as highly technical, it's so important to have somebody to be able to call, right? I mean, and who better than somebody that knows what you're trying to do, right? I mean,
Right.
so it's like Share Faith and Boxcast, Share Faith has 16,000, ministries all over the world that are connected with them. Boxcast has thousands as well, and it's so great to know that the people that are taking care of you know what your ministry is trying to accomplish.
Right.
And so that phone support that's available, around the clock, 7 days a week, chat, email. I mean, we're available. We don't succeed unless you guys do. And so it makes sense that we would be available to help any given Sunday for any problem that you have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like among industry standard, our response time is like a quarter of what's standard. So we want to make sure that we are actually even sometimes proactively reaching out to you if something's wrong. We've had churches that forget to take off their lens cap, and then we'll get a notification from our support team, and then we'll reach out to them before they even know it. So we really pride ourselves in looking at this more as a partnership with your church, where we're kind of there every step of the way to help you with that.
And one more thing on that too, I was going to say, is that we can even like remote troubleshoot in and help. You know what I mean? If you want us to help, embed on your website to help you do that. We don't just help with live support on Sundays, we help you get onboarded.
Yeah.
Which is also good too.
For sure.
So.
And the average church with us spends about 20 or 30 minutes with their initial training. So it's not like we have like a 2-hour crash course to like get really, really deep with you, but we've built our entire online scheduling dashboard where you can log into boxcast.com, log onto your site, and it's very intuitive, and it'll take just about a minute or two to schedule a broadcast. Your training is about 20 or 30 minutes. So it's not necessarily a huge investment of time, because we've tried to make it as easy as possible for you. But something that you touched on in that last section that we talked about, audio video integration.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when churches do start off streaming, they may we've heard this story quite a bit,
Yeah.
where they purchase a camera and then they want to start using Facebook Live, and then they realize that they're kind of bound to this camera phone.
Right.
And especially if you're in the back of the sanctuary, then audio is coming from your phone, and you're hearing people in the back row talking, and the sermon is very echoey, and the worship music doesn't really have a good mix. So we really kind of tried to solve this problem by having these really universal inputs. So if churches want to use SD equipment, which we do have churches around the world who do, we have RCA composite inputs. If you want to use HDMI, high definition inputs, then we have an HDMI input right here. So if you have a video switcher with multiple cameras, or you have just a single camera switcher, it's really plug and play. So regardless of if you guys are just kind of picking up your first camera, or you already have a whole like multi-camera mix, you're just plugging the final output right into the box, and there's nothing that needs to be set up. It's kind of the opposite experience that you'll get with a free option like Facebook, where you're kind of bound to a camera phone.
And I think another thing to keep in mind too is that a lot of people want to use computers for streaming because we trust them for everything that we do.
Right.
But there's no input on a computer for a video camera for a reason.
Yeah.
You have to convert that video file somehow, and when you do that, you always end up losing a little bit of quality, or you add an extra step in the chain where things can go wrong.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, what the Boxcaster does, it's encoding the video. It's literally taking that video signal and it's making it speak computer language so that it can be broadcast online. But it does it in one step, which makes it way more efficient for your network.
Yeah.
And then it makes it way easier for volunteers. It makes sense to have a dedicated device to do something rather than having it, to figure out how to like stream it through your computer, to download some software, train a volunteer how to use that. It's going to be way easier.
Again, we're not talking about apples and apples here, because it's totally different. Like, I use my computer to pay my bills. I use it when I cook. I pull up recipes. This is my checkbook. This is where I watch Netflix. This is where I look up the box score after the Cavs lose to the Celtics. It's what I use for like so much of my life. This is what I use to work, at my job. But when it comes to actually plugging in video and handling it well without losing quality, you're going to need dedicated hardware, and that's why we've taken the computer out of streaming. You don't need a computer at all. All you're going to need is that box, and it's really easy to plug in audio and video inputs. So let's talk about our player embed code and just embedding on your website. What does that look like? Is it complicated? How custom can you get? That's a big question that we get quite often, so we'll dive into that here.
Yeah, and so you can, it's literally just a few lines of code that you copy and paste in the infrastructure of your website. Like I mentioned, our support team can help guide you through that.
Yeah.
But once it's embedded, all of your streams can be broadcast there and then immediately afterwards archived for playback in seconds.
Right.
And so it makes it, that takes the stress out of it as well. But one thing that's so interesting about streaming to your website is that ministries that have video on their website, it actually increases their chances of being found or being put on the first page of Google by 50% when someone's searching for a church in that area.
Right.
Because the way SEO works is that when you have video content and stuff like that on your website, it actually bumps you up in those Google searches.
Right.
And so not only are you giving people an opportunity to view on your website when they're coming to your church to see what you're like for the first time, but then you're also making yourself more discoverable, I guess if that's a word, I don't know, higher up in Google, which is, I mean, this is a great way to have your SEO affected by that.
Yeah, I think really like this is probably my personal favorite reason why churches should live stream is the search engine optimization implications. Exactly what you said, that when someone searches for a church in your city and state on Google, then instantaneously what the search engine is doing is it's saying, I want to show the most valuable content to the person searching. And when they see that embedded video, that code that we put on your website, then they say, oh my goodness, video is so important to our culture, it's so valuable, we're going to push them up in the rankings. So that people, if you're not in the first few, people might not find your church and never visit you if they're moving to the area. But it's such a fantastic assimilation tool. And we can have the archives embed on your website. We can have a countdown timer, a pre-roll image, a pre-roll video. So that's part of the training where we'll show you our really easy integrations so that you guys can get really custom with your embed.
Essentially just as custom branding to your church's website, to whatever your ministry wants that to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to look like a Boxcast or Share Faith player. It's going to look like your church's player.
Yeah. So again, I mean, we shared our background in ministries, but our company was founded by a worship leader. And so what we've tried to do from the outset of our company is be very serious and intentional to get the feedback and requests of pastors. So the reason why we have these types of customizations with our embed code is because churches have asked for them, and then we've just built integrations. So we have a tech team of over 10 people here at our company, and they're constantly innovating and constantly adding new features. So we have churches that signed up with ShareFace streaming in 2016. We've rolled out new features every few months to them, and they're getting more and more benefit without even raising the price. Having that custom embed to have a very professional embed experience that's easy is a part of that. And then finally, this is kind of like the really exciting stuff to talk about. When you're managing your stream, you might want to know who's watching and what can I do to the archive. And we have some really awesome features that you're just not going to get with anybody else.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So analytics, I mean, it's huge that we have an opportunity to not only see how many people are watching, but through ShareFace streaming, you get an opportunity to see where they're tuning in from.
Yeah.
You get like a viewer map. You can just
someone's watching me in Ireland. I'm in Connecticut.
Right. Yeah. whatever it is. Right. Exactly. So we give you guys the ability to see if people are watching on mobile devices or desktops, if they're watching just live or they're recorded, how many views, how long people watch for on duration. I mean, there's really enhanced analytics that really kind of get you guys to gauge whether this is a good fit for your ministry. Yeah,
for sure. We also have some tools that will allow you guys to stream your entire service live. But let's say for the archive, you just want the sermon to be trimmed down. So we have a really easy post-production sermon trimmer that will allow it so that when someone goes to click play in your archive, then they'll go right to the preaching of the word. So we also have something we call highlight clips. So what a lot of churches are doing, which is really cool, is when someone preaches on Sunday, oftentimes people leave the door and they go and they watch their football games, or they go to the grocery store or their kids' soccer games. And if you ask them, I'll give you $100 if you can tell me what the sermon was about. Sometimes they couldn't even give you an answer.
Right, yeah.
We've all probably been there if we're honest. So what we're trying to do is come up with tools where you guys can take little snippets of your content. You don't have to stream reshare the entire sermon with someone.
Right.
But you can say, here's a 2-minute thesis of the sermon. We're going to grab a highlight clip and we're going to push that to Facebook or push that to someone via email or Twitter. So these are just kind of like little ministry custom features that you're not really going to get with a free solution. Again, you're not going to have the option to embed your video. You're not going to have the option to do some of these custom analytical and post-production things with something like Facebook Live, but we've built, again, ministry custom features.
I love that those highlight clips. And it makes sense because every Facebook or YouTube video is about a minute or too long.
Yeah.
Because our attention spans are so short.
For
so why
sure.
would we not get people to
when is the last 500-page book you've read, Kyle?
I don't think I ever, Harry Potter maybe? I don't know. But
So we, I mean, as a culture, like our attention spans are shrinking, unfortunately, but that's why I want to make sure that you guys can reach people with content that is even shortened and abbreviated in ways.
Right.
So Facebook Live, you might have a lonely experience where you start and you have problems and then there's no one to help you. Because of the training and support, you're again going to be limited to the camera that you can use or where you can put your content. And then there is kind of that lower quality where you're not necessarily using a professional camera, and so the video isn't necessarily going to look as high quality as it should. But really with the more paid pro level option with ShareFaith, we've tried to make things easy again with not only the training, but any help that you might need and the technology where you don't even have a button to push and it runs by itself on Sunday morning without a volunteer. It's really feature rich. We're constantly adding these features. You're not going to be limited in really any way, and it's ministry practical because we care about churches first and foremost, and we want to serve you guys. So let's see if any more questions have come in before we move into our final section of our webinar.
What are the most popular features of ShareFaith streaming?
That's a great question. I think most people are, what would you say just in general? And then I'll give my opinion.
Yeah, I would say I think the most popular features, the things that people, when they compare us to other people, it's one, our ease of use.
Yeah.
I mean, it's seriously plug and play. Nobody else can do it like that. Mm-hmm. So I think from the ease of use standpoint, you're plugging a box in, you're linking your account, and you can stream on Sunday morning. It really is that easy. I think. Secondly, I think simulcasting is huge. I know we're probably going to hop into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But that multi-platform, the ability to go into a lot of different places at once is huge. And then I think also obviously the analytics, the production value, the other things that we bring to the table in that way. But we're an end-to-end solution. Everything else is put together. You have a random device that helps you convert it to your computer, and then you have a software, and then you have to stream it from there through RTMP to get it to, and it's just confusing. Where we make it one step, and I think that's the best thing that I think ShareFaith streaming people, churches have noticed as a difference.
Right.
But
I think those are totally true. The only thing I would add is, like, some of our features, you experience them very briefly and then they're done, because we just drop one embed code in your church website and then you never have to go back to it ever again, and all of your content for years is going to be going there live. So that's a very brief experience to put our player on the website. But it's something that I think a lot of people love because it's just so stinking easy.
Right.
Any other main questions that have come in?
I think that is all up. Maybe we got another one coming in here. We'll see here in a second.
All right, and just a reminder, guys. Send us something via chat, via email as well. And then, as we're talking about this, you might have like more little questions that are popping up in your head, and you might think, "Man, I would love to talk to these guys one-on-one." So remember that there is that link beneath the player where you can click on and actually see our calendars and sign up for a time to have just a 15-minute or a 30-minute consultation. Or we can even just chat for 5 minutes if that's all the time you want to take.
Especially now that we're going to be hopping into some of the more technical things, I think that this is probably a point where maybe some of you who are just starting out might get a little confused. Right. So this might be a good time to, if you get confused, book a meeting with Brett. We'll figure this out. Yeah,
for sure. This final section is kind of called backhaul protocol, and really what that's talking about is things happening behind the scenes that make your stream operate. This is kind of one of our key differentiators because we're doing a couple things technically that a lot of companies are charging like $1,000 a month for, that we're including in a plan that's 1/10 of that price for you guys. And of course, you're not going to get that with a free option. So there's one of the huge differences behind free streaming and paid streaming is going to be things happening that aren't so apparent to the end viewer or even to you operating it. And one of those is the ability to simulcast while you have a church with just an upload speed that might not necessarily be super powerful. Churches tell us all the time, look, I'm in a rural location, or for me to upgrade my upload speed, things are going to, my ISP is going to charge me $400 a month or $200 a month more. That's something behind the scenes that's happening that's really, really important that we offer.
And this is actually very, very awesome that Boxcast and through ShareFace Streaming does this, but we do all our transcoding in the cloud. And so I'm trying to break that down for you guys. What that means is we only require you to send us one video quality on your church's internet connections. We bring the highest one, 1080p, whatever that video quality is. You send us one signal. We take it up to the cloud, we transcode it, we bring it down to your viewers in multiple bit rates so that they can, so it's easier for a church to get up on less bandwidth, and your viewers actually experience less buffering issues.
Right.
Not only that, but we're sending it across multiple platforms. Mm-hmm. So we only require 3 megs of upload speed for a good HD signal.
Right.
I mean, any house, residential, facility, whatever, probably has that. I mean, it's such a little amount of upload speed that we make it very easy for churches in rural communities to stream.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you want to be a good steward, and you don't want to have to invest in a much more expensive internet. And so,
right.
I mean, people ask us all the time, how is my little upload speed at my church going to support a stream to my website, to my app, to Facebook, to YouTube, to Apple TV, to Roku, to Twitter, and all of these multiple options that you might be streaming simultaneously
right.
to. And again, the multiple quality levels from a couple HD options to a couple SD options. And the answer is that we're doing all of that work at the cloud for you. We're not requiring your upload speed to do that. So that's one of the reasons why we can simulcast to so many places and do it with excellence, because we know that this is a big issue to churches, and we've decided to include this as a feature for you guys. You're not really going to be able to get elsewhere. Actually, like Ustream and live stream, you're going to be paying $500 to $1,000 a month for a feature like that. Automation is another key thing that, for instance, if you wanted to fire up a broadcast with Facebook Live, you kind of have to do it in real time. You're not able to schedule things in advance. Automation, therefore, is like one of our key emphases. And could you talk a little about that, Kyle?
Yeah, so automation has been in our wheelhouse from the very beginning, which is why we designed the box to have no buttons on it. And so when we took the buttons off of the device, it made it easy. I mean, our founders were literally like trying to figure out how to automate parts in like rocket ships, right? And then they like figure out that the thing that sometimes messes up the most sometimes is people.
Right.
And so we try to make it as easy as possible. Everything's still managed. Everything is still accessible through your login on the website. But automation is huge because you can fire up a broadcast sitting at your house from our mobile app that you can download, even if you're not at the church, and you can start streaming. Right there. You can schedule it in advance. If you know every Sunday your service starts at the same time, you guys can schedule that to go on. It'll stream to multiple platforms.
Right.
It's going to be, like I mentioned, it's not going to be crazy for volunteers to use. It's very volunteer friendly. The automation, I think, is something that we realized was so important that we all our boxes don't have buttons on them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because someone will forget to push it or push it too hard and break
yeah,
the button.
Right, exactly.
And actually, like we work with a lot of large ministries. If you've ever read the book Radical by David Platt, he does an event called Secret Church every year. So we knew when that event was going to be for them, so we scheduled the event well in advance so that the box just literally turned on at the right time when it needed to. So it kind of just helps with reliability, with being professional and being on time, and then again, taking away some of the effort versus just having to have someone click the button at the right time, which so often fails, unfortunately.
Right, yeah.
Another thing that's kind of neat about beyond scheduling is just event promotion. So when you're streaming to multiple locations, a lot of people are sick at home in bed, or they're traveling in business, or traveling on vacation, or they're missionaries or soldiers, like whatever their case is, they need to know when your event is happening.
Right.
This is something that, since you can't really schedule in advance with Facebook or other kind of social options out there that are free, you're not necessarily going to have that strength and that opportunity to promote and maximize your viewership and the impact of your event. We've built some things within our solution, which we offer through ShareFace Streaming, that allow folks to know when events are coming, and that's something that we know is really important to optimizing reaching as many people as you can.
Yeah, because we know, I think, that deep down, although your church, any church obviously wants to live stream, you need to let people know that it's there. And so making people aware is half of it too, right? Mm-hmm. Just that, like, we help you not only from the beginning part, like hooking up your camera, we take it all the way to the part of helping you promote it, helping you market it.
Right.
I mean, it's really that's kind of part of the end-to-end solution that I was mentioning before.
For sure. So we've got little buttons that say share this on Facebook or share this on Twitter or send a custom email invitation if you really know that that's someone who's only come a few times and probably won't be at your church service if this would bless them. So we have multiple ways to promote your event, invite people. That's just really the click of a button on your online Boxcast account. So it's something that is simple, easy, optional, and there for you guys if you need it. And then finally, just server reliability. So a lot of churches have a lot of viewers, or sometimes they'll have events that have a spike in viewership, or they're just events that happen at certain times of the week. And Facebook is a social network, and it's not necessarily their primary focus. So a couple weeks ago,
yeah.
You want to tell that story, or you want me to tell it?
You go for it.
Yeah, so Facebook streaming literally just shut down, and so people, anyone that was streaming on Sunday morning, their stream just died without a backup option. So we actually have a really advanced backhaul protocol that scales to all of our viewers. So we can handle millions of simultaneous viewers, no problem, and we're constantly scaling and opening up different servers that if anyone would fail, which is very rare,
right,
we can just refresh it with a new one. And that's not gonna end your viewer's experience. So these are kind of things that you're not gonna see.
Right.
But we have, that's our focus. I mean, we wanna do streaming well and reliably and professionally.
And I think in part with that, SureFace streaming, we do not limit the amount of viewers that you have, the amount of viewing hours,
right,
the amount of times you can stream. We wanna make sure this is something that every month or every year, depending on which plans kind of are available, that you're not going to experience an overage fee if you have a lot of viewers,
right?
Or if your ministry grows and then maybe you were starting out small and then you grew, you're not going to experience something that's going to all of a sudden be too much for you to handle.
Right.
So our server reliability, the way that we've functioned, the way that we've used our server infrastructure to help service people all around the world. Like you mentioned, we have on the weekly basis thousands of viewers, and sometimes on each broadcast, that never have an issue watching our broadcasts. And that's partly because we've thought from the very beginning the most important thing is the viewer's experience. And so as people are watching online, they're not going to be getting a buffered video. They're not going to be getting, that's shut down. We actually believe so much in our reliability that we put it on the Boxcast website for people to actually see what our uptime is. And it's so long as it's been here, it's like 99.9999% because we're never down.
Right.
So it's just a great way to know that no matter what you're doing on a Sunday morning, that your stream is going to be reliable and that it's not going to get shut down.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a necessity. You can't really compromise on that. So, I mean, there's certainly opportunity to schedule on Facebook, but there is a narrow scheduling opportunity. You can't do things in advance. You can't promote it as you'd like. Really, streaming is kind of a secondary thing. Facebook is a social network for people to post things on each other's walls. And it's when the stream goes down, there wasn't a backup. So the focus is not just to make sure that the stream runs with us. That's kind of our primary focus. And it can be a laborious process where you have a lot of effort to get things to run every week. And if someone's sick and they normally run it, then you have to train someone else to run it. With us, with a paid option, you're going to run into something that's a lot more effortless, that literally runs by itself.
Right. Yeah.
That's reliable, even when problems happen. And really, again, that's just widespread and can reach as many people as possible. So here's the big question that we've been talking about: to free or not to free? Should a church pay or consider paying for streaming options when there are free options out there? I mean, hopefully, if you guys have stayed with us the whole time, it's been pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But whether you're talking about the end viewer, the user capabilities, or even just the backhaul tech, or even just alone the fact that more people will find your church website just by embedding your video through search engine optimization, I'd say I'd give that one a yes.
Oh, for sure. and I like to tell a story here. Actually, it was funny when my son was born. We tried to use white noise to try to get him to go to sleep. And we tried using free versions on Spotify, just looping white noise that and it never worked. It never filled the room quite right with the noise that it was providing. It would the loop would end. There'd be an awkward pause between when it stopped and when the next loop started. And my son would always wake up, and we quickly realized that the free version was not the best version.
Right.
And so we got a white noise machine.
And why did you get a white noise machine? Because you went to a pastor's conference with me and you snore so much that I brought one.
Well, that's true. Brett does snore, so that's when I got it. But when we got the white noise machine, it filled the room perfectly. My son slept like a baby, so did me and my wife, and we realized that when we paid for the real thing, that it was so much better than trying to fake it and do it for free. And so I think that helps answer the question, is when it comes to even something like streaming for your ministry, do you want to do something that's free that may not work, or do you want to do something that's going to provide value to your ministry even though you have to pay for it a little bit?
Right.
And so I think that's kind of what helps answer that question.
Absolutely. And the price is really minimal. We're gonna jump into that right now because you're probably spending more for your family cell phone bill than a whole church of a couple thousand people would have to spend for live streaming with us. So let's just kind of dive into how it's really worth it, I think. We have our live streaming hardware that we've showed you guys a couple times. It's normally $499. For every Share Faith church, we give that to you guys for free. So no cost, no strings attached. You guys sign up and we will ship that out to you. Build it and send it out to you, no problem, no cost. We do have a startup cost, but if you guys prepay your first year, then we will actually waive that entirely so that you don't have a startup cost at all, even for all of the training and all the integrations that we will help you with Apple TV and Roku and all of that. And then finally, our streaming option is affordable compared to some of those other options, around the $500 or $1,000 a month. We have one at $239 a month that most of our churches are using. That is $99 a month, lowered down more than 50% for Share Faith churches. So if you do the math for that, you're talking about like $24 a week to not have to have a volunteer and to reach people on multiple different platforms, not only your website but also social media. So when you're weighing something like, there's options out there that are free, but then there's an option like this that is not going to require me to invest quite a lot of money. In fact, for the impact that it can have through search engine optimization alone, $24 is probably the best money that your ministry can spend to reach people in 2018. For sure. Even if streaming wasn't even applied to it, I would spend $24 a month to improve my ranking in Google alone for my church website. So we are happy to offer this discount. It's something that we actually only offer to Share Faith churches. So if you would call us up and wanted to learn about pricing, there would not be a better option than this. But we've been delighted to offer a custom feature set at a really awesome price for Share Faith churches for the last 3 years. So let's spend our final time just diving into specific applications of your ministries. If you guys have any questions. The one thing I will say is oftentimes after this type of a conversation or a webinar, you think, oh, I should have asked that. Well, you can continue to email us at webinars@boxcast.com or again, come back to this and this link here that's embedded beneath the player and sign up for a consultation, and we'd be happy to help you one-on-one with a consultation for your ministry. But let's just see if you guys have a few more questions, and then we will dive into that.
So here's one question. What do I need to get up and running?
For sure. So this box has a couple different inputs. We don't require you to plug in a computer, of course. So what you'll see here is Ethernet, power, and then audio and video. So really the four connectors that we're asking you to have is power, which we'll send you, an Ethernet cable to connect it to the internet, which of course is just a few dollars, and you probably have a couple of those lying around your church, and then the ability to plug in via your camera and your sound from your soundboard. You can plug those in separately, so you can take an output directly from your soundboard into the box, or you can plug in audio and video through like a switcher and bring in just one input through HDMI. So if you don't have a camera, you can pick up a camera like a Canon Vixia for roughly $200 on Amazon. That's a good starter camera that a lot of our churches use. And nowadays, cameras are just so affordable. There's a lot of them out there. You guys probably have one even sitting around your church that you could start off streaming with. So not an enormous investment by any means, but that's really all that you guys would need. A couple cables, and to send us all of your signal, and then that's about it.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is simply you need a camera, internet connection, and a box.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah, so something that most churches experience is the fact that this is going to be less than a lot of their other budget items. We're not asking you to spend quite a bit. It looks like questions have kind of wrapped up. There's no more out there, but again, feel free to send them in. We have been so privileged to talk with you guys today and work with Share Faith churches for the last 3 years, and we're so excited to even be considered by you guys to work with you as well. So thank you for spending part of your day with us. We want to keep this conversation going and be there for you guys as you dive into this. If you have an elder meeting or a staff meeting to talk about this and you need some materials, just reach out. We'd love to get you some. But really, with all this being said, happy streaming and thanks again. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.